Well, hello indie people. So I am feeling a little bit ranty today. So what we're going to do is talk about some autism myths that I am personally sick and tired of hearing. So the first autism myth that I have for you is that autistic people can't succeed or have very little chance in succeeding. Now this myth, or the idea that autistic people can't succeed, really came about to me because I was having a conversation with someone who left a comment on a video a few weeks ago, and they were talking about how their kid, society, won't accommodate them, and because of their autism it's very unlikely that they will succeed. Now I can't speak for everyone, and I'm not going to, but for me personally, it's something I'm really tired of hearing. It's something that only adds to the stigma of autism, and it just is not helpful. Now I can understand that people have a negative association with autism or the fact that they are autistic themselves. If you're in that camp, I'm not here to convince you otherwise, but it's just something I'm really tired of hearing. The fact that people say, because someone's autistic, they are not going to succeed or they have little chance of succeeding. To me, there are plenty of people who are autistic and have pushed themselves into careers that, they're going to do for the rest of their lives. And they are doing very well for themselves. Whether it's content creation, the thing that I do, or something else entirely. Just because someone is diagnosed as autistic, or, you're autistic yourself, it doesn't mean the end of the world. If someone who is autistic has the tools to succeed and people back them in succeeding in their dreams and ambitions, whatever they might be, it's important to obviously support them in that. But I just think if someone's given the tools, of course they are going to succeed, or at least, give it their best effort to succeed. And the reason why this is a myth to me is, like I say, you have incredibly successful people who are autistic and they're doing incredibly well for themselves. I mean, people like Anthony Hopkins, for example. Dan Aykroyd is another one as well. But ultimately, I think if we back our young people, especially our young people who are on the spectrum, to strive for their dreams and passions, and just be there for them, I think a lot more people would succeed, and also having the foundations in place for them to cope with all of life's stresses and things. But I believe autistic people can succeed. It's just about giving them the tools and giving them the right foundations. Now, the second autism myth that I am sick and tired of hearing is that autism is caused by vaccines. Now I can imagine this autism myth to a lot of you who are in my audience. You'll be like, oh my god, don't get me started. And quite honestly guys, I'm sick of thinking about this or even talking about it. So I'm just going to briefly go over this one very quickly. Autism is not caused by vaccines, and reverse that, vaccines do not cause autism. In the early 90s, there was this doctor who did a study and was basically trying to prove that vaccines cause autism, or autism is caused by vaccines. But this was completely debunked. There's no proof of it. Vaccines are not caused by autism, and autism does not cause vaccines. Yeah, next one. Woo! Now the third autism myth on my list is a bit of a dubious one, I must be honest, but apparently autism is caused by bad parenting. Autism is not caused by bad parenting. In fact, I know plenty of people who I've spoken to, had the privilege of speaking to, who just want the best for their kids, and just try their best, just because autism is, something that, you live with, or, you living through someone else, it doesn't make it a bad thing. And, yes, there can be tough times, but I think it's about also cherishing the good times as well, but also making sure you have the right support there and getting that support in place if it's really, really needed. Now the fourth autism myth that I have for you is that apparently autistic people like you and I, or someone that we don't want friendships or relationships because they are damn complicated. Now for me personally, and I can only speak for myself because I am one autistic person, without my friends, without my family, without the relationships that I have, I just would not be happy, you know? I need that in my life, you know, to keep me grounded. But I know people who, you know, comment in my comment section quite often, talking about how they are basically a social hermit, you know, who don't want friends, or, you know, don't like the idea of having a lot of people as friends, or even wanting romantic relationships or relationships of any sort. But there are also people in my life who, you know, are on the spectrum and, you know, they need those friendships or they need that relationship and are quite extroverted as a person. Now, the reason why this is a myth is purely because, you know, you may have an autistic person who does want friendships, who does want to be in a relationship, whether that's romantic or otherwise, but they may have difficulty in building those relationships or friendships. Now, I know for myself this was true, you know, I didn't have many friends growing up and I wasn't very good at making relationships of any kind, you know, but I think, again, if someone's given the tools and, you know, someone gives the person time, you know, and, you know, just helps them out with stuff, you know, like making friends, or if they want a relationship, you know, trying to help them in, you know, building the skills for that. But, you know, if you don't want that, you know, you don't have to. Ultimately, it's your life, you know, and, you know, just live your best life. That's all I can really say on the matter. Now, the fifth autism myth that I have for you is that there is an epidemic of autism around here. There's an autism epidemic around here. On iTunes right now. No. Apparently, you know, there is this thing online where people talk about, you know, there are more autistic people than there were years ago, and, you know, the rise in diagnoses is getting a lot larger and the ratios are getting smaller. You know, people say that there's an autism epidemic. Firstly, an epidemic, I think we all know by this point what an epidemic means, and obviously a pandemic means. Autism, it's obviously not a disease or an illness, of course. Obviously, the reason why the ratios are getting smaller is because obviously people are getting diagnosed more. The reason why people are getting diagnosed more is, well, majority of it is down to awareness and people talking about it, whether it's like on a platform like mine or, you know, through public media or whatever it is. You know, people are talking about autism more. People have more of awareness of what autism is and what some of the traits are. You know, they may identify those traits within themselves and, you know, look into it for themselves, or whatever the circumstances are. It may not be the fact that they're looking for a diagnosis, it could be that they've reached crisis point, and, you know, an autism diagnosis is something that gets mentioned and it's something that leads them on their path. But I just think, though, that saying that there's an autism epidemic happening is just really weird to me. It's not something I like either. I just think the more people that are, you know, getting the right help that they need for them is obviously a good thing. And if that includes an autism diagnosis, then that's obviously a good thing, isn't it? And to say that it's an epidemic, I just think, just go away, because I don't need that in my life, really. But yeah, so those are some of my autism myths. Have you got any more that you want to add to the conversation? Definitely let me know down below. But if you did enjoy this video somehow, make sure you leave a big thumbs up for me down below. It would be really appreciated if you could share this as well if you enjoyed it and you think others would enjoy it as well. Stay you, stay indie, and I'll see you next time.